This is the new Renault Clio, and it's a little bit like Windsor Castle in the way that it doesn't really look any different to how it looked before. But actually, underneath the skin, it's completely new. A bit like Windsor Castle because it burnt down, they had to rebuild it, but looks the same. Now, this is the kind of car you're probably looking at if you're also considering something like a Ford Fiesta, a Volkswagen Polo, or a Peugeot 208. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about this car, and you'll be able to find out whether it is the right small car for you. Now let's talk about the designs. I really like the look of this new Renault Clio. The orange paint does suit it as well. It's got quite a cheeky looking face. This is the RS line version, so it has a slightly sportier front bumper. Now moving down the side, as standard you get 16-inch alloy wheels and they move up to 17s, and on this RS line version they're then diamond cut. Got bits of chrome about the place, and generally looks nice, and it's quite sleek and sporty at the back end. I like what they've done there. And the tail lights, the way they like texture to them. And RS line again has a sportier rear bumper. Look, it's got one of those racing car style rear bumpers. Look, it's got a diffuser on there. That'll do nothing, but at least the exhaust pipe isn't fake. Once again, RS line has the sportier tailpipe. Now let's just check out what the inside's like. Well, this is pretty nice. It doesn't feel like the interior you'd find in a small car. It's like it's been taken from a much bigger car. It's, yeah, the quality. Like, I mean, that's all soft touch there. That even here, that's soft touch as well. I'm surprised. This interior is nicer than a Volkswagen Polo's, and the design is more interesting as well. Renault has done a fantastic job with this. Things get scratchy lower down, but can't really fault it. Well done, Renault. Now, I should point out that this car does have the upgraded sports seats, which look pretty cool. And in terms of the driving position, you can get really low in it. So it does feel sporty. And if you want to, of course, there's enough adjustment that you can still raise it up quite high. So whether you're big or tall, you'll be fine. Okay amount of adjustment in the steering wheel as well. The cabin itself is reasonably practical. So you have an armrest here. There we go. See, it extends, which is handy. Under here, you've got some storage, but it's rather pointless. There you've got some cup holders. Annoyingly, there isn't a slightly smaller one for like an energy drink like you get on most cars. I like this feature though. Look, there's a little place for your Renault key to just go there. And the glove box is, classic Renault look. That's a fuse box. Your glove box is tiny. It's not so bad if you're in a left-hand drive car because you don't have the fuse box there then. So you have a normal size glove box. Now there's a little space here for your mobile phone, but it isn't quite big enough to fit my mobile phone in its case. Now at least you've got a couple of charging ports there right by your phone and an aux in. Who has them anymore? And there's a 12-volt socket there if you're really into your old-fashioned ways of connecting your phone to a car. Finally, let's check out the door bins. Will they fit a large bottle? Come on. Come on, do it. Don't let me down, Renault. Come on. Yes. Does it fits, that's all fine. Now, this particular car's dash is dominated by this infotainment screen, but you only get it on higher specification cars. The entry-level car system looks like this. That's awful, isn't it? It's not even a touchscreen. This one is there, of course, and it's quite easy to navigate through it. It looks a bit dark, but it's responsive enough. It comes with inbuilt sat-nav, though personally, I wouldn't be using the inbuilt sat-nav. Even though it's actually all right to program, I'd just be using the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto and using Google Maps because it's always better no matter what. Now, this car comes also with the part digital dials there, so the central bit is a digital display, but it doesn't actually show that much, even though you can cycle through a few menus. It doesn't do like mapping for the sat-nav or anything like that, but you can upgrade that further for a wider display, which does have some more features on it. Whether it's worth it, probably not really. Anyway, the front of this car is pretty nice. I wonder what it's like in the back. So first of all, let's check out the old knee room. Well, it's not great, and I've got quite short legs. At least you can slide your feet a little bit under the seat in front, which does help a little bit. As for headroom, well, I'm 179 centimetres, so yeah, there's not that much of that either. So people who are really tall are going to struggle in the back of this. And if you need to carry 3 at once, it's not great either because this seat is quite raised up, and then look, you've got no headroom at all. Also, the Clio's body is quite narrow, so if you try and fit 3 in the back at once, they're going to be fighting for shoulder space. A Seat Ibiza is more roomy in the back. Also, it's a bit claustrophobic here in the back because it's all dark and dingy and the window ledge is quite high. The rear windows aren't the largest. I'll tell you what's also annoying is there's no armrest here in the back at all. There's no cup holders either. You do have some door bins, but they're really only going to be able to fit a smallish bottle. There are some pockets on the seat backs, but they're almost as tight as my pants, so you're not really going to be able to fit much in them. Anyway, baby seats. Yeah, there's some Isofix points here, which are easy to get to because the covers flip up. The only problem is that the doors The opening isn't that wide, so it can be hard to fit a bulky seat in here, and if you've got a rear facing seat, you're gonna have to push this seat all the way forward. However, there is one saving grace. This front passenger seat actually has Isofix anchor points as well, so you can put a bulky facing rear seat in the front and just turn the passenger airbag off. It's all good then, isn't it? Anyway, let's move on to the boot. Now, the good news is that in this area, the Clio is a lot more practical because this is one of, if not the biggest boot of a small car. Now, there is quite a bit of a load lift, which makes it a little bit harder to lift out your favourite piece of log. Anyway, be free, log, be free. This boot is a nice square shape, so it's quite easy to pack full of suitcases and stuff. There's a few useful features in here, like hooks there where you can hang your shopping bags off, some tether points as well, and another one down here. If you need to carry large items, you can fold down the seats and they split 60. Come on, seat. 40. You might be thinking, oh no, look at that big ridge there. It's going to be hard to push heavier items to the front of the car. Well, look, you get a false floor which you can raise up like, look, there we go. And it gets rid of that ridge. Now, this doesn't fully get rid of that load lip, but it is better. This is a practical car. Anyway, let's go and check out the engines on it. Now, the range kicks off with a 1 litre petrol engine with just 75 horsepower, which is going to be too slow. Then there's a 1 litre petrol engine with 100 horsepower. Now, both those engines come as standard with a 5-speed manual gearbox. 5-speed, how old-fashioned is that? That you can get the 100 horsepower one with an automatic gearbox if you need that. This particular engine is the 1.3 litre turbo petrol with 130 horsepower, and that comes with an automatic gearbox as standard. A manual is not available. Now, Renault says this will do just under 50 miles to the gallon, and I've actually measured it at just under 50 miles to the gallon. But if you need more economy, you can get a 1.6 litre hybrid with 2 electric motors and 140 horsepower, and that should be able to do 64 miles to the gallon. But if you want even more economy, you're going to want the 1.5 litre diesel with 85 horsepower. Though be warned, you can only get it with a manual gearbox. It's not available with an automatic. And that brings you on to 5 annoying things about the new Renault Clio. The car's key may be nice and thin, which means it doesn't take up much space in your pocket, but it's just so flimsy and cheap feeling. It's as though it came free with a McDonald's Happy Meal. Look at the size of the rear window wiper. It's tiny. All that's going to do is clean you a very small little porthole to peer through. The boot release is really low down and it's just here, look. And that means it gets absolutely covered in crap if the weather's bad and you're driving in the rain, and then that ends up all over your hands. The seatbelt covers the button to release the seat back, so it can be a bit hard to sometimes lower it. There we go. And also, occasionally the seatbelt can lock. Look, it's locked. So come on, release, release, release. Yeah, we're released. So that can be annoying as well. And while you do have these little holders there to keep the seatbelt in place, sometimes it can pop out of there and then it like goes like that, and then you put the seatbelt back and it's all trapped and it makes you cross. I really love this orange paint colour, but needless to say, it's an optional extra. In fact, every single paint colour will cost you an extra £560 or more, unless you want the standard white. That's the only one you get for free. Thankfully, this car has plenty of cool features to help make up for all this. Here's 5. Normally when you get an upgraded stereo and it has a subwoofer in the boot, that subwoofer eats into the load space. Not here with the new Clio and its Bose sound system, because the subwoofer is mounted in the side here. See, clever. The car's engine bay is filled with lots of sound deadening material, and the windscreen is covered in a sound insulating film, and that's all designed to stop the engine noise from entering the cabin. The old Clio used to have a bit of a squidgy brake pedal feel, so what they've done for this new one is made the travel shorter, give it more response without it being too snatchy. You can fit the car's load cover underneath the false floor. I love that. The Clio has one of the nicest sounding horns of any car. It's like a musical note. Have a listen to this. Right, let's see what this little Renault Clio is like to drive. Starting with the visibility, because you get a huge pillar here. The view at the back isn't great, so that does make it a little bit trickier to park. Thankfully, this is quite a highly spec car, so I have got a reversing camera and parking sensors. Otherwise, I think I'd be screwed, to tell you the truth, even though it's small. Come on, let's slot it in. Now with them, it's not a hard thing to park. Steering's light enough. Let's get out of here. This car is the automatic. It does clunk sometimes. I would say just get the manual, but the thing is the manual is a bit notchy, so overall the automatic is a slightly better option. The turning circle on the car is actually pretty good. So if you need to do a U-turn or go around a roundabout, one of those real mini roundabouts, you're not going to be having to do a 3-point turn in the middle of the road looking like a complete arse. Up there, that was the gearbox just clunking then. Now sometimes on French cars the brakes can be a little bit over enthusiastic and grabby, so you touch them and you're like banging your head off the steering wheel or losing your glasses. On this it's absolutely fine, to tell you the truth. Last thing for me to check though is see what this car's like over bumps. So I've got my special cobble potholed area here. I'm going to try it because obviously if you're driving around town going over speed humps and stuff and through badly surfaced roads, what's the Clio going to be like? Well, I can tell you the suspension feels a little bit on the firm side. It's not terrible, but it's just not so good at ironing out bumps as a Volkswagen Polo. Now let's try this Clio on a faster road, such as on the motorway. So if you've got the 100 horsepower petrol engine, it can feel a little bit underpowered. This 130 horsepower version though is fine. Look, I'm doing 50 miles an hour, I'm going to floor it. Kicks down all right, and off we go. The engine sort of makes a whining sound, a bit like a vacuum cleaner. And that's the turbocharger on it, but it pulls hard enough, so you'll be fine for overtaking things on the motorway or on faster roads. One thing you do notice when you're going quickly though, is that you get quite a bit of wind noise and tyre noise. It's not the most relaxing small car to drive on the motorway. One thing I will say in its favour though is that it feels like a bigger car. There's something about it, I don't know what it is, it just feels like a stocky, solid car, which is a good thing. Oh, and you can get it with the latest cruise control system, which will automatically brake the car to keep you a safe distance from the car in front and even steer to keep you in lane, which is good. This car has it actually. It doesn't work on our test track for some reason though, so I can't show it you, otherwise I'll just crash into there. Let's try this car now on a twisty road. Let's see if there's a benefit to that stiffer suspension, and there is in a corner actually, because it stops the car from leaning too much. Look at that, stays nice and flat. Oh, that's all right, that is. I just wish the steering just felt a little bit more sporty. It's almost like it's not connected to the front wheels. I know it is because the car is turning, but I'm not really feeling that it is, if you get my point. If you like to be involved in your drive on a twisty road, you're going to be better off in a Ford Fiesta. It's just a bit more fun. It's competent, this, rather than exciting. Finally, let's talk about the different equipment levels you can get with the Clio. So the range kicks off with the Play model, and that gets LED headlights, air conditioning, the basic kind of cruise control, and folding door mirrors. Next up is the iconic model, and it gets rear parking sensors, a leather steering wheel, and a 7-inch touchscreen with built-in Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Then there's the S edition, which gets digital climate control, front parking sensors, a reversing camera, and part digital dials. Finally, there's the RS line, which gets a sport steering wheel, the sport seats, and extra sporty bits of exterior trim. So then, what's my final verdict on the new Renault Clio? Should you avoid it? Should you consider it? Should you shortlist it? Or should you just go right ahead and buy it? Well, I reckon you should shortlist the Clio. It's a pretty good small car that feels posh inside. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Also, comment below any kind of other videos you'd like us to do. If you want to watch some more videos, click on the windows there.